So that should cover all on how to engage online. If you are by the phone and you would like to join into the conversation, you can do that by pressing *6. That lets you mute and unmute yourself during the conversation as well. I don't have an agenda set out. What we did today is a couple of weeks ago we met and I said, hey, do you all just want some time to talk about what we're going through and similar things that everybody else is kind of going through. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to provide us a space to be able to have some conversation. And so I do want to just open it up now. One more jump back. If you find that you have unmuted yourself and want to jump into the conversation and I have maybe muted you, that's just because there was some background noise and sometimes it's hard to pick up other people talking when there's another noise. So I may have muted you, but you can always jump back into the conversation. Don't think it's I'm telling you don't talk anymore, just to let everybody know. But if you do unmute yourself, I ask that you just keep all the background noise down as best as possible. That way we can all hear each other. So I guess go ahead. How is everybody coping? Where are we at? What can you share today that would maybe help, or what questions do you have today about what everybody's dealing with and working our way through with this process that we find ourselves?
Our teams went back to work today at the office. We're not working from home currently. We haven't decided if we're going to be at the office 100% yet. That is still in the works, but it was nice to kind of be back at the office and seeing everyone in person and feeling a little bit of normalcy, if that makes sense.
Where are you at?
We are in Pensacola, Florida, and we weren't hit real hard with COVID. We don't have a lot of cases, but I work the 4 counties close to us, and it's been tough because we are a beach community. So we're getting a lot of travelers that have left other states and have tried to come in, and so they're bringing it with them.
How many people do you have in your office? I'm just curious what that looks like.
I think there's 8 of us.
Okay. So larger for some offices and smaller for others. Okay.
Hi, it's Shannon in Illinois. We're kind of doing similar to Joanne. We're starting back like 1 or 2 days a week, depending on people's childcare that's available. Because right now in Illinois, childcare is limited to essential employees, but still employees are considered essential under our governor's orders, which is nice. So I don't have my little hellions running around here, which is nice. But like I'm going on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we have 9 people total in our office, and there's only ever, I think, a max of 4 there right now because our office is so small and the space is, small enough to fit that number of people. So we're just doing like half staff or less to make sure we're not getting too close to one another right now. And then the rest is TBD.
Thank you.
Well, hi, this is Gino from the Disabled Resources Center here in beautiful Long Beach, California, Southern Cal. I think it's about 80 degrees outside, slight breeze, about 3 miles an hour coming over the ocean. So it's a nice day outside. I know I think half our staff is back. This is our second week back in the office. Half the staff is here. I know we are practicing our distancing. Luckily, I don't have a roommate in my office, just me. So that makes it nice. And I think the biggest thing is just not allowing anyone to come to the office unless they have an appointment. And we have a barrier that's between, if it's absolutely necessary to meet, then we hand out PPEs to those that don't have their own already. And I know we actually have 2 different areas for lunch, one indoors and one outdoors. So.
And where did you say you were from again?
Long Beach, Cal.
Okay. So you guys are starting to make your way back then?
Yeah, this is our second week back.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And I see in the chat that Susan from Disability Partners in North Carolina, we are definitely not reopening our center until June. Our directors are being extremely conscious of our health and our consumers. Thank you for sharing that, Susan.
Yes, this is Stephanie from Louisville, Kentucky. I'll agree with Susan. Our directors have pushed our opening date back till June to be cautious of our consumers.
Okay.
Same here in Northern Virginia. We're not really showing a consistent downswing quite yet. And, you know, some of our staff are themselves medically fragile in ways that would put them at risk. So we're still working from home for a while, and we're kind of looking at going back, but we haven't really talked about a date or anything like that. So I think it really varies depending on where you are and what the trends are.
This is Susan. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Alexa, I was thinking the exact same thing, that the majority of our staff are in the, you know, at risk, and most especially our consumers. And I think for our center, I can't speak for our director, but I think we just feel like we are really functioning well from home. You know, we're calling our consumers on a daily basis, and not everyone on a day, you know, but we're going through consumers on the phone. We're doing webinars. We're staying abreast of everything. And we're doing a Zoom meeting once a week with each other, and staying very connected. And I think for now, I think safety is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, at my center, one of my colleagues had sort of begun working from home about a week before all the rest of us did, based on doctor's advice. So I think it was pretty easy, you know, for our powers that be to go, okay, let's maybe see about everybody going home. So that's kind of where we are.
That brings up a question for me. Sorry, it's Susan again, but I'm just curious, with all the faces I see on my screen, how early your center's closed. Ours closed. We stopped seeing people in person in the center about mid-March, and then we closed at around the 20-something of March. Is that kind of across the
Same
board?
here. Yep.
Yes, I know.
Something like that, yeah. March, late March.
I'm
We
from
didn't until the first week of April 6th, I believe.
I have a question for Gino, if you don't mind. You said that you are seeing consumers in the office, Gino?
By appointment.
By appointment, okay. And what kind of measures are you guys taking for that?
One is temperature taking, and they have to arrive with PPEs. If they don't have it, then we have those that we hand out.
Okay. And are you doing like socially distant meetings, like trying to keep your distance? Okay. Because we're not seeing anybody in the office yet. We're just going in for file maintenance and printing, but.
Oh, my favorite, file maintenance and printing. Oh, gotta love it.
I know, it's wonderful. It's a nice change of pace from home.
You know, we've been out of the office since March 13th. I think that was when we were out of the office. And I was like, man, how come we don't go paperless? But, you know, but I mean, the Zoom has allowed us to be better than we were, because now look how many people we're reaching across the nation here with the Zoom capabilities. And I have a lot of students that I work with. I'm the transitional youth coordinator, independent living, and the peer support coordinator. So I just got off a Zoom meeting with the students this morning, and you know, we meet with them a couple of times a week. But this allows for us to do our jobs a little better and reach more people. So it does allow us to kind of be more creative and think outside the box. So I'm really kind of embracing it, like it a lot. There are a couple of drawbacks. I think we need to have Wi-Fi citywide, and getting Chromebooks and tablets into the hands that don't have them. So for the most part, most of the school district has given out Chromebooks. It has made it kind of accessible. So in some ways, I mean, it isn't a system that works 100%, but no system does, and we're doing the best we can moving along with it. So I really kind of embrace it. I like it a lot.
I think a lot of people were surprised at how easy it was to make the shift to working at home if the technology was in place or somewhat available, like the Wi-Fi, like you said. I was kind of surprised. My focus isn't as good here, I don't think, but
I think my days are longer because I end up stretching it longer, especially working with the youth group.
yeah.
Especially working into the evenings, getting ready for the program that I want to deliver on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the messages that we're going to go around. But like I have help with, I know Myra's on the line here, and so is Samantha. So that allows me to have a delivery and them to communicate through the chat and just tag teaming that way and trying to get our message across and whatever lesson plan that we have for that particular day.
This is Susan again. I was just going to interject. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I feel like I'm actually working more from home than I really was in the office.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time during the day, an 8-hour day in an office, that you are preoccupied or doing other things. And I've, like you said, Gino, it's not 8 to 5 anymore. It's sort of always on my mind. And I feel so grateful that I still have a job, that I find myself doing it at for periods throughout the day, into the evening, on Saturday and Sunday. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that I do feel like we're all realizing that we do have the technology to work from home pretty well. And I cannot remember at this moment if it was on one of these webinars or another one that I heard mention of a lot of centers for independent living possibly rethinking paying rent for a center, which ours would not do. We discussed it during a conference call where we serve several very rural communities, and I think they feel like it's very important to have a physical place that people can come to. But I do think that a lot of folks are realizing, like, there is so much that we can do from home. Just to, I don't know if the world will ever look normal again, but to cut down on the contact. That's it for me.
This is Stephanie here again. And I also work in youth transition, and as part of our program, we went into the schools and had group activities with the students. And Zoom is great, and getting to reach more students is great, but I kind of worry that it'll become the norm to be in class virtually instead of in person. And I kind of fear that we might lose something.
Oh, I agree with you, Stephanie. We've definitely lost something.
Yeah, I mean, there are some advantages. There are some disadvantages. Same thing. I mean, I worked with Long Beach Unified, and so I was dealing with all the high schools that these students couldn't be mainstreamed, were put into another school, and so for us to physically go there and work on our lessons was definitely needed. But now it gives you a chance to be more creative about how you're going to deliver your program. And I know there's a little uncomfortableness on our part, but this is how we grow and learn, is taking yourself out of the comfort zone, especially if we're teaching the students the same thing. Hey, learn to adapt. These are the kind of adaptive skills we're teaching the students. If we can't be adaptive ourselves, and we're not really kind of sending that message along. So we're going to have to learn how to be adaptive ourselves and translate that into languages that they can understand. And I know they're probably missing some of their one-on-one aids, where their aids used to be there, and now it's the parent and the parents aren't familiar with Zoom, because you could hear them sometimes yelling at the other kids in the background. Hey, blah, blah, blah. And you're, Mom, I'm not muted, so it does make it interesting. And, but you can see as a student that we were starting to branch from the high school, getting into more middle schools too now. So we were actually, expanding more with our program. I think we have over 200 students that we work with. So like I said, it does give us a chance to be a little bit more creative about how we're kind of doing these things and how to get them involved and really kind of pull out what they need. So, I mean, as Susan was saying, yeah, the days are longer now because you have to think more creatively. How are you going to translate that message through the TV so I can grab you?
I don't have a problem being creative, and it's not the thinking outside the box that gets to me. It's kind of like, and this applies to young people without disabilities. They're already kind of so technology dependent and lacking social skills. That's more what I'm trying to say my worry is.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to think about it. Technology is not going to go anywhere. It's only going to get better. I mean, if you think about the future, it's going to be like Tony Stark's house. Hey, Alexa, and most of the houses do that anyway. You got smart homes. So I know when I come home, hey, Alexa, turn the light on. The technology is not going to go anywhere. So to think that, hey, you know, we're going to pull back and we're going to start to do these things, it's not. And I think this is kind of more of what's really going to happen. When I'm not here, I mean, I'm a swim coach and a water polo coach. So, I mean, I need that interaction to understand how to work with the students. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, with the personality. How do you reach them and then bring them back in? So it is difficult, but, you know, I don't, like I said, it isn't going to go anywhere. And most of the students are doing this. And I know we want to have more of a face-to-face kind of to do. So thinking creatively to do, how are you going to do that now without the social distancing? So it does.
But when you have people, like I have a lot of consumers, youth, young adults, where the goal is social skills. They're working on social skills. It's hard to work on social skills if you can't be social.
Yeah, right.
Good point, Scott.
Yep.
Sorry. So my question is, this is Sarah from the Independent Center, by the way. My question is, if we are reaching more people with technology, if we do agree that the Zoom meetings are allowing us to be more creative, is there any plan to continue with these Zoom meetings once social distancing is not required? Like, or if we got more interest in the Zoom meetings because it's easier to meet online, obviously, how are we going to retain the youth that maybe won't come to the center, but they'll log in on a Zoom meeting? Like, what's the plan going forward, I guess?
Hello, can you all hear me? This is April.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is April from Empower Tennessee in Middle Tennessee. I am currently hosting a couple of peer support group meetings. One is focused on women with disabilities, and the other one focuses on assistive technology for any disability. And right now, you know, we're 100% on Zoom, but we've already, like with our staff and stuff, we've already talked that we will continue to, even when we go back to having that in-person option for people that either prefer that or, you know, and there's no denial that there's no substitute for that in-person interaction when it comes to peer support and socializing. But we are also going to continue offering it through Zoom and tapping, you know, like ideally tapping it into like an overhead, not projector, but like a, you know, a TV, so that, you know, connecting my computer with the TV, and so people, and having speakers up so that people can remotely tap in when they aren't available, or like you said, some people that maybe are preferring that, or maybe they, you know, transportation barriers had prevented them from participating before, and now they can, and so it's going to be a mixture of in-person and Zoom, so that we can continue expanding our outreach.
I definitely this is Mel's, like to add on to what April just said, because because we're having like sorry, lost my train of thought, back on it again. But it's one of those things where this, though I would never want this pandemic to happen, like it is showing us that, oh, we could reach more consumers if we had this digital option. So keeping it both and using this this time period where we're actually being encouraged to explore new options and try things out to see if we can fill those gaps. Because I know my county, our office is based out of our most populated city. But you go 15 minutes in any direction, you're completely rural.
Exactly.
And we have people, they want to come to something physically, that's an hour and a half of driving each way. And so having those options, and also like if we have presenters come in and talk, getting recordings of it, posting on YouTube channels, seeing if it's like actually having those resources available to everyone. And I think it was Gino who mentioned we're doing so much more like connecting nationally, that these are resources that we can share together. So instead of just one national organization giving us a bunch of stuff, we can also be giving back to that. And I feel like we've just been given an opportunity to really explore how fully we can share our resources with the technology we have now.
I think that we need to remember, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt anyone. I think we have to remember as this technology moves forward that we are going to have some adjustments to make for people with disabilities. You know, my daughter's a person with a disability, and so am I, and she is doing the distance learning for college right now. And, you know, she had accommodations in place, and those were completely ignored when they went to technology. And they didn't implement things for her, and she didn't pass. And so that is a concern. That's something that we're going to have to advocate for that as we move forward with school year begins for those youth that we are taking care of, and they're our consumers. We're going to have to make sure that those things are in place and remind the families that they're going to have to ask for accommodations for their children, you know, in the learning environment if it moves forward to technology wise.
Well, I know here our first at Cal State Long Beach, the whole fall semester is going to be online. So I think we're going to actually reach more. How many more students now are you going to get or convinced to go to college now if they could do it from home, who are, you know, introverts who couldn't go out or didn't want to go out or for whatever reason kept them in or prevented them from going to college? How many now will participate if we have this technology? And like I said, from this technology that's going forward, how much better is it going to be? Because
I think a big issue is in more of the rural areas is internet access. When everything went to e-learning, I got a lot of phone calls from parents who were saying the internet did not go out to them yet. So these kids were completely cut off from any type of services because they had no way to get internet out to them. And then a lot is cost issue. Yes, right now, different internet providers are doing low cost internet, but that's not going to last forever. And when I have consumers who are talking about budgeting, you know, between paying for rent, medical bills, food, or internet, they get rid of internet access so they can just provide their basic needs.
So now you see where
Molly from
Wi-Fi
Disability
internet
Action
is
Center.
a basic need. So this is one of the things that we should be advocating for. How Wi-Fi and internet is a basic need that everyone should have for free.
This is Molly from Disability Action Center. I'd like to piggyback on my coworker Nels Felton's comment. We are looking into diligently providing not only the tablets, but also the internet access to individuals who may be in certified family homes, at home, smaller nursing homes. But with the individuals that don't have financial access to internet, that would be wrapped in that tablet package that we would provide internet for a certain amount of time or, you know, a few months. so they can have access. We're also looking into, because a lot of our folks have service providers, you know, people that come in and help them out, maybe possibility of having that part of the plan and a memorandum of understanding for assistance to be able to operate the tablet, walk people through things, be able to help them set up their meetings. So we're going to try to take that one step a little further, because we also, like Mel says, I can go 10 minutes from my home and I'm in the middle of nowhere, but there's, you know, a few houses scattered about. We have like HughesNet that does provide internet services to most of our rural communities. So that's what we're looking into. I'm not sure how sustainable and how long we can provide the internet access for, but we do know during this time, and we're suspecting that this time is going to last, well past June. They have expressed a resurgence around October during flu season that this will hit hard again. So we would like to be ahead of the game. That way people can meet with us, consumers, via the tablets or via any needs, and also communicate with their family or workers that haven't been able to come and have that time to deal with issues, especially for some good mental stability, to be able to reach out to whomever they need to.
I have two comments first comment on the internet issue thing. And I don't know because I haven't tried this, but I know here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Norfolk, Virginia, there is libraries that offer like hotspots that you can check out. Obviously, that doesn't help now because libraries are closed, but like as things start reopening up, I'm wondering if there could potentially be a partnership with libraries in the future to offer internet access to participants. I don't know, it's just the idea that I just had. And then the second comment is someone in the chat mentioned recording like live ILSs and putting it so that people who couldn't come in person could still receive the training. But my question is,
did that.
How do you deal with the privacy issues regarding that sort of videotaping and stuff like that?
I haven't seen that in the chat. There's so much good conversation going. Do you know who commented, or who, if you chatted about that at all, could you share a little bit more about how you're able to do that, or has anybody else gone about this?
I mean, I commented saying, like, Chris, I agree with you. Like, Chris, I agree with you. I think it would be a good idea to live record the in-person independent living skills groups, so that way we can still reach out to participants living in more rural areas. One thing I forgot to mention, Mel's, I can relate to you on this one. Sarah and I, the Independence Center is located in Norfolk. Norfolk and Virginia Beach are pretty densely populated, and so is Chesapeake and Portsmouth. But once you go past Suffolk, heading west, we also serve the more rural parts of Hampton Roads, Virginia, such as Southampton, Franklin, and Isle of Wight counties. So I think having a mix in the future of the in-person groups while still having the option for them to participate virtually, it would help, I think, eliminate the transportation barriers out in Southampton, Virginia, Isle of Wight, Virginia, and Franklin, where paratransit doesn't go out to Suffolk or those places.
And I think, thank you for sharing that. So Chris is on the one online that was saying, as students are preparing to go to post-secondary in the fall, this might be a really great time to help prep them for that, because a lot of them are probably going to be looking at virtual. So if the center can do some training now for that, that would be a great IL skill class that could be provided now on what to do. And I think there was some other let me see if I can find it again. Oh, somebody was saying the CARES Act is how their center is planning on addressing some of the technology and using some of that funding for internet access and the technology access. And I saw some other people agreeing that that's some of what they may do as well.
Yeah, so I'm here in, I'm Allison from a southern town, and well, it's southern Utah, sorry. So, and our main office is in a pretty dense area in St. George, but we serve 9 counties, and then a lot of Utah is rural, with Salt Lake being the biggest city. But I know that like with all the centers, there's 6 centers in our state, and we're all divvying up the CARES Act money. And so we have that, I think it goes until next September, that we have to use just for supporting those consumers with the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that would be giving them the technology, helping them with internet bills or things like that. But I also had a question, if any of you had this problem. So some of my parents, they're like, well, we're online all day with the kids, and I don't know if this will be a problem in summer because school's out of session now. But they're like, we don't want them to go on Zoom because they're already online all the time. So we'll just see you when we're all together again. So I'm losing like a lot of my consumers.
I don't know if this is exactly the problem. Not that they're on too much, but our teachers have reported a drop in their participation since they've gone online. And it's just apathy, I think. It's like, well, they're not in school anyway, and they're only on certificate track, so it doesn't matter. So that's kind of the problem that we're having with the internet, not a question of access or parents.
I also forgot to mention earlier that a lot of, like, it's been a mixed bag. I've noticed that a lot of participants at the Independence Center, Sarah, feel free to jump in if you have any additional observations, but I've noticed that while quite a few participants, both youth and the general consumers and participants at the Independence Center have benefited greatly from the Zoom technology, there have also been quite a few participants who at least the ones on my caseload have said that they miss coming to the Independence Center and they really are anxious to go back in person.
And there's actually, in the chat, there's quite a bit of you saying that the in-person piece is really kind of where you fill your tank, if you would. That consumer interaction is really where you're benefiting, and you're having a lot of consumers contacting you and saying that they really would like that too. So I don't think that you're alone in that, Amy, by any means. I think a lot of people were sharing that towards the beginning of the call. How are you all?
Yeah, this is Susan.
Can I interject real quick? So like,
you start. Oh, I'm sorry.
In terms of like, you know, people dropping out of coming to workshops and classes, this is Esther from Independence First in Milwaukee. Some of my youth, the thing about it is being in class on Zoom meetings all day long, they don't get enough breaks. So one thing that I've talked to their parents about, or some of my consumers, is take a break in between your classes and do your homework at other periods in time. And that seems to have helped a lot. So when it comes to actually having my meetings with them, they're actually more engaged, they're participating more. So my attendance hasn't really dropped in that matters of speaking. So it all comes down to them just spacing out their day more and getting that interaction and letting out some steam when all they're doing is sitting in front of a computer all day. That kind of gets boring. It gets boring for us, I would assume. So I can only imagine being a youth and having to deal with it.
And if I can jump in, this is Sarah Harris from Resources for Independence, Central Valley in Fresno, California. And Esther, I think that that's one thing that we all need to try to start doing, because we are back to back all day on Zoom or phone calls or whatever it may be in one way, shape, or form. And so I know I've caught myself, telling everybody, all right, this is what I'm trying to do. Why don't you try to do it too? Because I know yesterday I was back to back to back, and I was like, I can't do this every day. And so I can't imagine how, overwhelming it is. But I think that, the one thing, the positive side of everything that we need to look at is we've learned the new reach, right? And so when we do all get back in our offices, finding that balance of in person and virtual is I think key to bringing more people in and, empowering more people. And, the one thing we've seen is a real upsweep in youth participation because of having the ability to get on Zoom. I have a weekly youth group that meets every Friday for an hour and a half, and there's anywhere between 15 and 25 people. And, we have to utilize this time to really look at even, what kind of remote jobs can we start looking for our youth? Because that's going to be, the big new thing, right? And so just kind of putting all of our heads together and looking at, companies either within our own areas or nationally that we can find people, and, there's going to be a lot of things. Sorry, I'm blind, so I'm hearing the chat in my ear as well. So it's distracting me, but we have to look at the brighter side of things too. And remain confident that, we're going to be able to give the best services possible in whatever way. And, and it's kind of scary. And I think the schools part is the scariest part, that we really need to look at what advocacy needs to be done there, because I haven't been able to connect with any of my high schools at all. The adult transition programs, yes, but not any of the high schools. And I think it's an epic fail here in the Central Valley, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, whoever I need to say sorry to, but it sounds like that's what everybody is seeing, and it's super sad. And that's my piece.
Thank you for sharing that. I have a question for you all, actually. What tips are you doing to take care of yourself during this time? Because I'm hearing a lot of you on past calls and some one-on-one calls and you all shared a little bit ago, that you find yourself working later, working earlier, longer hours, and back-to-back Zoom calls and those types of things, which youth are also seeing that I could reach you all day now, all night now. How have you all been able to balance some of that? Because I've heard that that's been pretty tough for some, that now the youth, those boundaries of like our doors are open and closed at these hours are no longer a thing. There are no more doors. And so how are you all balancing that?
On the weekends, I turn my work laptop off, shut it off, and put it somewhere where I have to actually go get it if I want to look at it. So, my work phone I still have, so if somebody has some kind of an emergency, I'll do it. But for me, it's a way of reminding myself it's the weekend and I should not be working right now. And most problems can wait until Monday. So
I don't have a work phone, which has been really somewhat difficult. So when I've been working at home, making phone calls, and it's more my other consumers who are not my youth parents, because my youth, their parents understand boundaries, but it's my other consumers who'll be like, oh, I had something come up. It's 8 p.m. on Friday. Let me call her. And then Saturday morning, why didn't you call me back? Mm-hmm. Or I then will try to block my phone number because I would be checking my voicemail a lot periodically during every day. And then they would say, well, the number was blocked, so I didn't want to answer it.
Hey, Lauren.
Yes.
This is Molly from Disability Action Center in Lewiston, Idaho. What I did, because I'm also working from home with a personal cell phone number, is I signed up for a Google number. And so we've been utilizing and giving out the Google numbers, so I know when the phone rings where it's coming from. So I know if it's a personal call or if it's a work-related call. And also when I return people's calls, it doesn't come up as that blocked number, so they're a little more willing to answer and respond to the calls. I do, however, I in the beginning, I was doing, trying to keep on top of everything, so I really didn't have a format of, I was working till 6 or 7 o'clock at night and stuff like that. I was driving myself over the edge, trying to make sure everything was accomplished. So I set the same boundaries as office hours with my home hours. So I step away from my desk, everything gets shut down until the next morning. The same with the phone. If it rings, I can usually tell if it's, where it's coming from. But I was having the problem too, is if I call somebody back on my personal cell phone number, now I've just opened the door for them to continue to call me at any time of the day. So early on, I put that in place, and it's been very successful. So that's what, and the Google number was super simple to get, very simple. And also,
I was also going to
logs all your calls, so you know all the phone numbers that called and on what day. So it's helpful to refer back to, like if you have an INR that you're working with for us, information referrals. So it keeps track of all those calls on a call log for you, which is kind of awesome.
I'd like to say, this is Susan in North Carolina. I'd like to say, if maybe this might help someone, but we were just issued cell phones through our office and went staggered going to pick them up, and it's made an enormous difference. I had one consumer that I called and forgot to dial *67, and that turned into a situation with just the consumer abusing having my personal cell, and as long as it's just happened to be a consumer who was very needy and inappropriate. But anyway, I did want to say, as everyone was speaking about, Zoom meetings, and Stephanie, you mentioned, I know that the issue in the field that we're in is that personal contact is so important, but I do think we're going to find a new normal. I think we're going to find a new balance. And the other thing I wanted to say, just on a positive note, is I don't know about you guys, but I have made so many phone calls to consumers who, I'm new at this, so they're not even my personal consumers, but so to strangers that I've ended up on the phone with for 30 minutes, and they are so appreciative of someone just listening to them vent, hearing their story, and me too, contact during this time. So yeah, just on a positive note, I wanted to say, aren't we lucky that we can connect with people over the phone? And
I have some consumers who I know if I call them, we'll end up just spending 30 to 45 minutes on the phone talking about random stuff. Like one of them.
But that's the thing, Lauren. We're at home. We're at home. And so I feel so obliged to allow them to do that. I love it. I love hearing their stories. And I feel like, my gosh, I'm getting paid and I'm not putting on work clothes every day.
Exactly.
I relish those phone calls.
This is April with Empower Tennessee. That's good and bad. I can easily allow myself to, have a wide variety of topic conversation with a consumer that I just happen to really get along with, and I just enjoy talking with them. And then before you know it, honestly, you all are talking about 30, 45 minutes. I'm talking about several hours. And that, I don't have time for that. That will lead me to going to working, really late at night and getting up early in the morning, and oh crap, I still have to put things in the database, and so then I'm throwing those in on Saturday. So we actually had a talk about this in our internal staff meeting. Like, remember, we have to set our boundaries, and even when it feels good to us to talk with some people too, they're still our consumers, and we need to help remind ourselves to say, to cut it off at a certain time or after a certain amount of time.
April, I can relate to
Anything,
you.
like horribly sensitive. Like I know one of them, I had met with her right before this happened, and she mentioned she was a big reader. So I'm like, oh, I like to read.
Exactly. Like it turns into our peer support.
This does give you an opportunity to teach boundary skills.
Uh-huh. And that's what we've switched it over to. It also helps me promote my other peer groups.
I mean, as a swim coach, all my swimmers had my phone number, so it wasn't a big deal to me that they had my numbers. So even when I have consumers that have my numbers, one, they're going to learn about boundaries, and two, I live in this town, so I run into them anyway. So I don't want them to go, oh, there's that guy, man. Oh, I know I call.
Exactly.
I go, you see me at the grocery store, you see me walking my dog, you see me at the ATM. I mean, I don't have any money, but I stand by the ATM. But, you know, you're going to see that. You know, I live here in town, you know, and I kind of got used to it when my mom was a teacher here in town, and everybody knew her. Oh, hey, Mrs. Elliott, you know.
And then I am, you know, a person with multiple disabilities. I'm involved in my own, you know, groups and stuff. So, and then I have overlap between some of my consumers are some people that I knew personally, you know, beforehand. And so you know, there's a balancing act that you have to do between, okay, am I putting on my friend hat or am I putting on my IL specialist hat? Yeah, right now.
And really quick, while you all are talking about that, I wanted to just jump in there. Somebody had also, Stephanie had shared that they established a phone tree with consumers who want to participate so they can reach out to each other so they're able to have some of those longer conversations if they like. And that would
I think that was the whole idea of having peer support, is that they build a network with each other for support. So I think a lot of things prior to COVID, we were having outings, and now as the restrictions start to ease up, we can meet our outings, and this is a good teaching and learning opportunity for them. How do you navigate, you know, the social distancing while we go out to restaurants again, or we go into the museum again, or we start to visit all these places. But if you look around, I mean, you guys here, this is the ground level of a new technology, how we're reaching more people. If you're imagining people being born today with a disability, they're going to ask you, how did you guys navigate it with the little simple Zoom program that you have and the holographic stuff that they're going to be able to experience, you know, as technology gets better. So, I mean, and it is good to get out of your comfort zone, because there's no growth in the comfort zone. As long as we start to get, we're not used to it. Great opportunities here.
Thank you for sharing that, Gina. What I was also going to share is Kendra had a question too. When talking with youth one-on-one, when they're expressing annoyances of staying home, how are you all handling that conversation? I know that some people have commented that it's a difficult conversation, and also if you start bringing in the issue of domestic violence and how that's spiked, and knowing that some of your youth may be at risk for that. But how are you all dealing with some of those things you can't change in the conversation?
I think if you start using positive wording, because everyone goes, I'm isolated. And you're not isolated. You are sheltering in place. So I think it's using better verbiage on how you're doing it. Oh man, we're on lockdown. You're not on lockdown. You can go walk around the block. There are some restrictions that you can do. But I think to start off with a positive thing, I mean, as a former serviceman, you know, shelter in place, this is a piece of cake, you know. Trying to find toilet paper, different story. But
I think I agree with you, Gina. It's all about verbiage. I saw something when this first started that you shouldn't necessarily think of it as social distancing, but more physical distancing.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had 4 or 5 hour Zoom meetings with friends, you know, that started at 8 p.m. and then we looked up at our clock and it's like, it's 1 a.m. I mean, before Zoom, we would have realized how late it was, like 3 hours prior, and was on to bed.
So hi guys, this is Kendra. So I've just been trying like doing the whole like positive verbiage with them, and it's just been so hard because, you know, as the weeks continue and they're not really able to do much. This person's like very physical, they like doing sports, and unfortunately, right now the Special Olympics have been put on hold in our state. It's, I don't know, I'm trying to do more of the positive, but right now it's just been so much harder with her than usual.
As a coach, you know, there's more to it than just playing the sport. There's the physical aspect of keeping yourself mentally prepared to play your sport, physically prepared to do your sport. And, you know, it could be push-ups, it could be sit-ups, it could be jogging around the block. I mean, there's other things that you can do. For us, it's difficult because we're swimmers.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Bodies of water.
I know. In the bathtub. Like mermaids.
Or if you have a pool, that'd be great, right?
Dryland drills are part of what we do for, you know, Junior Olympics and get into the upper parts of it. Keep yourself mentally fit, you know, whether it's eating and nutrition. So part of our Zoom things with the students, hey, this is going to be a program on how to eat cheaply and nutritionally. You know, can you prepare the meals? Some of the things we're doing with the students at the school, how we were using Alexa, asking Alexa, how do you boil water? How do you make a grilled cheese sandwich? And then letting the kids, you know, go back and forth in teams, figuring out how to kind of do this and who's got the right answer, who's got this. And so getting them more involved into letting the technology really work with us instead of letting
I think there are some really good comments in the chat about acknowledging that, you know, some people's feelings of frustration or loss, you know, should be okay to express. I know from my own experience, when I was a youth, I was dealing with some serious medical issues, and I was actually bedridden for a while. I was in a hospital bed in the living room, and I really, really, really missed going outside. And one of the things that I absolutely couldn't stand was when family members would come visit me and they would try to tell me, you know, that I was so brave and there were so many wonderful things that I still had that were so wonderful. And really the people that I trusted the most and gravitated toward were the people that basically said, you're in pain, both physical and mental. That's okay. You miss going outside. That's normal. So I do think that it's important to remind the kids that there are things that, you know, they still have, they still enjoy. But it's also very important, I'll just say from my own experience, for a peer to basically say to someone, hey, this stinks. Your feeling that it stinks is not, you know, some kind of weakness or some kind of, you know, you're not strong enough. It's a normal human reaction to
Alexa, thank you. Let me just say that real quick. Alexa, thank you. That was so well said.
Yes.
That we have to be allowed to
validate the
every
feeling.
emotion.
Validate the emotions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not move in and set up camp, but feel
that?
every emotion. And I think empathy is one of the most important things about our role as ILSs.
Yes.
Stephanie, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, I think, of course, it's important to be positive, but again, that validation, because it runs the risk of the attitude of, oh, I can just fix it if I try hard enough. I have a consumer who suffers from extreme OCD and religious anxiety. And of course, she has very religious people in her life telling her, oh, well, if you just pray, just turn it over to God. And that just feeds into her anxiety. Like, I'm not praying hard enough. I'm not doing enough to make it go away.
Stephanie, as someone in which one of my disabilities is anxiety, unfortunately, I can relate to her with that at times. It's like, you just don't have enough faith, and it's like it's not that I don't want to have faith.
Yeah, there's oftentimes a lot of complicated elements, you know, that you're dealing with. That's why we have to look at things on a case-by-case basis. And, yeah, I mean, One thing that our at Empower Tennessee, our executive director always says is, don't aim to fix things, but aim to make the situation better. And I think that helps us with job satisfaction, as well as feeling like, you know, we had a positive impact in the conversation we just had with consumers. Is, you know, we're not going to be able to take the physical distancing away from them. We're not going to be able to, have some magical cure for anxiety. And I have anxiety also, or their family makeup and their religious stances, things like
That's
that.
true.
But we
As much
can
as
try to
you
improve the
as
situation.
much as you wish you can.
Right. I know. Sometimes you just, want to say, hey, let me talk to those parents.
Well, and I think it's, just having those conversations and working out solutions that are going to, work for them.
Reasonable solutions.
Reasonable solutions that are going to work for them, whatever it may be. And, I always like to tell everyone, like, hey, anger is like that secondary emotion. It's like, what was your first emotion? And maybe, when you're angry, you count to 10, but when you're really angry, you count to 100. And then you step back and you look at the situation, like, maybe like you're stuck in a forest and, there's all these trees in your way. But if you were able to look over that forest with the helicopter, you'd be able to figure the way out, and just kind of taking those moments to, like at this moment you're feeling like this, but maybe if you, back yourself away and look at it from the outside looking in, what could you do? And, and it's worked with some of the consumers where it's like, all right, let's work out what solution's going to work best for you right now,
Sure.
and moving forward.
And also, like,
it's
everybody, actually, we're getting to the top of the hour, and so I don't want to wrap our conversation. It's so good. But unfortunately, I can't make it accessible after the top of the hour, so I'm going to have to wrap our conversation. There's so much good stuff in the chat. I wish I could have shared it all. One thing that I am seeing overwhelmingly is that you all want to be connected even more. And so whether that is on here and you want to do smaller breakout sessions on here, or you want to be able to connect with people in your state or your region, so you can have some of these conversations. Nellie had that suggestion of that way we can touch base outside of this. Because that's one thing that we're seeing is some people are in Florida and experience a whole different thing than people in Washington State and New York and Virginia. So this virus has hit different regions differently. And so I think that's one thing that will help us connect. So one thing that I would like to do is make sure I have your email, your center you're from, and the state that you're in. So you can email me that. I'll drop that in the chat, or you can drop it into the chat right now. I'll get all of that information afterwards. And I will try to set that up to where either we can do breakout rooms, which, just to let you know, would mean that you would have to register before these. You would have to register for these calls, so I know where to put everybody. I'll have to do that beforehand. So just be on the lookout for that. If you're already receiving emails from me, you'll keep receiving them. If you haven't already, drop it in the chat and I'll add you to our email list, so that way you'll get that link directly from me. And then if you want, what I'll do is I'll also probably send out an email and say, hey, would you like to connect to people in your region? And then what I can do from that point is the people that can respond to that, because I want to respect everybody's privacy at the same time, is I can tell everybody what region everybody's in and kind of mass email regions and connect if you like. And so I'll probably just follow the ADA. There we go. I'll probably just follow like the ADA center regions, and so since that's already been established. But thank you all so much for today. I'm glad we didn't have a topic. I'm glad we were just able to share. And that may be something that I'll send out too, to see if you all even want to have a topic, or if you just want one of these calls, and we can figure out what that topic looks like depending on where we're at in our own state and their own time. But please check out that evaluation link as well. This helps us continue these calls. If they're not getting any feedback from us to say that you like it, then they probably won't let us continue it after the fiscal year. So if you could say, hey, we really like these calls, or we need more of these, that always helps. That is in the chat, that link directly, and it's also on our website with all of the login information. It's also in the emails that you receive too. So if you could just do that, that just helps us continue to connect everybody. But thank you all. I'm going to send the recording out. That will be on our website. The chat will be on our website, and so will the captioning and the transcript for today as well. So you should receive all of that. Thank you all for joining, and sorry to cut it off. More conversation next time.
Hi, Gino. April, I wanted to say I love seeing your cat.
Oh, so, yeah, she gets really jealous of Zoom calls.
Oh, that was good. Good loving.
Thank you.
It was good to see everybody.
Good seeing everyone.
Yeah.